I guess then we're on that route. I wanted to ask you one last thing because you've worked in when it was the big media, when it was the mainstream, when Fox was, I mean, it was and it
Mm.
still is on that side of the house, the biggest thing out there. But now we've got the new media coming, the podcast, the Rogans, Sean Ryan's. I think it's a great thing. But what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I
And
do
does
too.
it?
I'm all about, different voices. I think that the legacy media certainly still has a place, but I think that um, I've certainly sort of seen over the years things in within the legacy media. I mean, we could just use the current example of what's been happening this week, and that is the CIA came out, under the Trump and basically had to admit, yes, we have had findings that say that this COVID-19, of course, it didn't come from a wet market. It came from a lab
Yeah.
in something we all knew. But I just remember at the time, you'd be kicked off social media if you dared question it. It was just the most censorship I'd ever felt. And the legacy media drove that. They went along with lies. I mean, I remember reading an article that was sort of even questioning how did it even come from China. And I remember just feeling like this was insane. And
Yeah, I
our
remember
job as journalists,
Governor Cuomo
yeah,
calling it a
God,
European
he,
virus.
what the heck, right? And, it's a job of journalists to get to the truth. Um, but for that some reason there was just no willingness to do that, and so to me that was there've been moments, but that was a big moment of like questioning, what is going on here. And it was just, hook line and sinker,
Yeah.
everybody followed the same script, and if you dared question it, then you were somehow labeled as a bigot or a racist, which wasn't true. It
Yeah.
was just getting to the bottom of a story. So I think people have opened their eyes to that. And I think that different media platforms out there have really enabled yeah, podcasts, YouTube channels, Instagram. And of course, there's going to be misinformation, there's
Yeah.
going to be conspiracies, those things are going to happen.
They were going on in the
Um,
legacy media. I mean, come on.
yeah, yeah. So it just, you know, as an individual, pick and choose what you want to read and follow. But I think that it's important to have a wide variety of voices, and I'm all about that.
Well, to Chris's point, being entirely objective here, things are going to get shaken up a lot. Like, so I don't know if you saw that press conference yesterday, but it was the first press conference of the current administration. The second question that was asked was Matt Boyle of Breitbart, which they probably wouldn't have even been invited there under the administration. And the current press secretary said, like, bloggers, podcasters, influencers
Mm.
can now all sign up for press passes. And truthfully, this is my prediction, and it sounds fucking crazy, but I know that Trump likes to shake things up. I think you're going to see like an Alex Jones at the White House asking
Oh,
questions during a press
I would
absolutely.
conference.
love
Yeah.
that. I
And
would
yeah,
love
I
that.
think he's just going to say, who says it has to just be NBC and Fox News? Like, I'm going to let
Yeah.
Alex Jones ask
When you
questions. I'm going to
when you
let
look
anyone
at
I want ask
yeah,
questions. So
when you look at
it's
these
going to change
numbers,
dramatically.
I mean, these big podcasters, I mean, their numbers are just
Yeah.
there's no
Huge.
comparison to an MSNBC or a CNN. They're just, yeah, no comparison. So if the White House does want that reach, they're certainly going to get it. With an independent podcaster, much more than they are going to get it with the legacy media. That's just the way it is. I mean, I don't know how a lot of these places are even still surviving given their numbers
I was going to
and
ask you that.
shows.
How
Yeah.
are, I've watched that. They fired was it, I don't remember her name, MSNBC president or whoever was chief well, I don't know
Yeah,
who.
I saw Jim Acosta left CNN.
Oh,
he
and
did. And Nora also left she was CBS, right? Nora O'Donnell. So
or
you've seen a lot of the exit of a lot of these big people, I think, because their salaries are so high. And I don't know that networks are necessarily seeing return. And it's also can be problematic in the journalism field. I mean, it's a little different in sort of podcast world, I guess, but in traditional journalism field, when somebody becomes too much of a quote unquote celebrity and they become the story instead of
yeah.
telling the story, to me, that is really the kiss of death. And that's been also, I think, part of a little bit of the downfall of journalism is that sort of has happened. Um, the story should never be about me. It should be about what it is that I'm trying to kind of say. So um, yeah, I think that some of these, big stars are going to kind of have to venture out on their own because the money's just, it's not worth the returns anymore for the networks.
And I don't
Well,
think
when I
they're going to
saw that
make it. No.
story late last year about MSNBC being for sale and the huge drop off in ratings, people forget, and I'm sure you remember, like there was a time MSNBC was actually a somewhat, at least pretty objective network. Like Tucker
Yeah.
Carlson was on MSNBC, Michael Savage was on MSNBC. And I think they're going to have to take a look in the mirror and rebrand. And I think someone like Rachel Maddow, who like her or not, gets great ratings, will stay. And I think people like Joe Scarborough and Joyanne Reed, like I think they're going to have to replace them with people who are either center right or centrist because their business model is failing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not. I think a lot of those networks did really well under the first Trump term, but I don't think that is going to hold over
I
in
agree.
second Trump term. I think the dynamic, I mean, you can just feel it's different now than it used to be. I think there used to be a lot of hysteria, a lot of sort of hate and worry. And I don't see that quite as much anymore from the media.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them have to recognize that he won the popular vote. Therefore, majority of Americans voted for Trump, and so in sort of the constant bashing, it's not quite translating the way it used to. There's definitely a big shift.
Thanks for checking out Battle Line Podcast. This is just a smaller clip from our latest episode, which you can check out in its entirety by clicking here. While you're watching, be sure to hit the subscribe button and thumbs up the video to show your support. Now, if you'd really like to help us out, click the thanks button below to make a donation. It goes directly to us in keeping Battle Line Podcast going.